friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today we're making more fun class Valentines with our Cricut machine. So in my last video, we used our Cricut Joy and made darling little apples. This time we are making some really cute little background for these little dinosaur erasers. I picked them up at Target. Make sure you hop over to the dollar spot and get those, or check out Amazon. I'll try to put some links down below. And if you haven't already, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. Okay, so let's hop over to Cricut Design Space. I'll show you everything that we're doing, and then we'll go over to the craft table and put it all together. Let's get going. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and so I've already gone ahead and pulled in some things that we're going to be working with today. If you want to follow along, then just go into your app on your phone or your desktop and select New. So on the home page, there's going to be a square that says New, and then if you're already working in Cricut Design Space today, there's a button right here that says New, so you get a nice blank canvas. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into images and select a few things. So we are making a background for our Valentine to put our little dinosaur erasers on. So I chose to get a mountain and then just the shape of a dinosaur. And we want our shapes to be very simplistic so that we have room to add text like this to them. So if we go into images and we just type in dino, so we wouldn't want anything overly complex like this, right? Because there's nowhere to write anything on. So I chose just to use this basic dino. So we'll pull him in. And then I also looked for a mountain, but you could also look for a volcano or anything like that. Okay, so mountain, and I chose this guy, okay? And one of the reasons I chose it is because there was a lot of, like solid space down here. And what we can do is we can fill in this space. If you move it over into the grid, you see that it actually has the grids behind it. So this is like a cutout. So we're going to fill that in. Okay, so I just made everything a little bit smaller so we could see it easier. So I'm going to grab my dinosaur and pull him down here, and there's my mountain. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is for the dino, I want this to be really simple. So if you click on him and look over in layers, you see that there is the exterior or that top cut, and I'm just going to close that off, and then you see that there is this cut. I'm going to choose this third one. The third one in the series is going to be the larger of the three. Okay, so then I have just this basic outline of a dinosaur. I'm going to go up, click on him, and go up into colors, and I'm going to change him to green. The green is going to be perfect because then I can use my black and blue markers on that scrapbook paper, and it's going to be really easy to read. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to look at my mountain. Again, it's a cut right in here, and that would make it kind of unstable when you add on your dinosaur. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over into shapes, and I'm just going to grab a triangle, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so that it would literally like fill in that space. Maybe even like cock it just a little bit. And then see, I still have some that's showing, so I'm going to go back into shapes and just grab a square. And with my square, I'm going to turn off the lock, and then that's going to allow me to make it any size I want. So we're going to just make it smaller, rotate it. Okay, and so now I have these two pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over into layers, and I'm going to grab both of them using my shift key, and then I'm going to weld them. So now they are one cut or one piece. Okay, so now what I can do is I can take that and make that blue, and I'm going to go into arrange and send it to the back. That looks nice, right? And then I'm going to take my mountain and I'm going to change it to a lighter gray color so that it's very easy to put text on top of. Okay, so now I have these two elements. This blue is going to easily be able to be glued to the back of the gray, and it's going to make that mountain solid, and it gives it a little bit more interest. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do, if you look back up here at my examples, we want to add text to this, and we also see these two small things. We want to add cuts. We want to put two little holes in our Valentine so that we can use twine to tie our dinosaur to our Valentine. So if you go back over into shapes, we're just going to grab a circle, Okay, and then we'll go up into size. Okay, so now that we have our dot is 0.2, now what we can do is we can take it and duplicate it because we're going to need an entry and an exit for our twine. Okay, so now that we can see it just a little bit better, let's grab each one of these and move them onto the mountain. We're going to put them about right there. And the next one. And then what you want to do is you want to grab the mountain. So if you look over to layers, you see that the mountain is highlighted. And then you want to use your shift key and grab one of the circles, not both of them, because if you grab both, the slice tool will disappear. But if you grab just two items, you can slice. Okay, and so now you can take that dot, and you see here it says slice result. So now you can delete that. Slice result, delete. So now you can see the grid behind that. Okay, so now what you did is you basically just poked a hole in that piece of paper, and then we'll duplicate that with the other circle here and then the two on the dinosaur. Now the next thing that you want to do once you have your two dots in your mountain and in your dinosaur is you want to go into text. And so I chose something really fun and whimsy because it's a kid Valentine, right? So you can go up into fonts. The very first thing you need to do is you need to go to the filter and you want to select writing. And so this way it's only going to show you the fonts that have a writing function to them. And so I chose to use a font called DJ Juicy. So you can click on that. Of course, you can use any font you want with your that has the writing feature. And so let's just say Dino. Okay, so I had a whole, your dynamite. And so what I want to show you here though is, so see how bright and bold that is? For one thing, it's because if you look in font size, it's really big. And so we're going to pull that down to like 30. And then if you go over into here, you see it's a cut. You don't want that to be cut. You see here in style it says regular. If you click on the style and you choose writing, and then if you go up into here, see now it changed line type to draw, and you click on this box for color, then you can choose your type of pen. We are going to use a marker and black. Okay, so now you see it changed the way that that looks. Actually, for this one, I think I'm going to use the blue, and then I'm going to use, this is a blue metallic pen, and then I'm going to use the black for like your, and then dash might. So if we go back over into text, and so I do might, like dino might, right? Whoops. Okay, so then what we can do is we click on that, and you see here in font size, we're going to bring that down to 30. I'm going to put it next to Dino, and then if you go here, you see it's already draw. You click on the pen, and you could use the fine point here. They have extra fine gel. The gel pens are so fun, but I'm going to use a marker, and I'm going to use black. Okay, so now you can see how the machine is going to type or to write Dino with the blue marker, and then might with the black. And so you'll go ahead and put on all the rest of your text and put it where you want it to be. And so whatever shape you use, I would just suggest that you measure the size of your little toy or your gift, candy, whatever that might be, and make sure that your dots are far enough apart for that particular little gift, and that your twine and your gift is not going to overlay on top of wherever you put your font. Oh, and the other thing is when I did my little mountain, I did go into images and get some grass. I just thought it would be fun to, punch it up with some more color. And so I chose a piece of grass that was very simple and actually kind of small. So that one would work, this one would work. I think I chose this one. And so you can take that and just pull at the corners. And then I'm going to attach that with glue. Okay, so then, and I even duplicated it and put some on the opposite side. So that just kind of funning it up a little bit. Now that we have our Valentines the way that we want them to look, before we take them over to mat, what we need to do is we need to attach our writing or our font to our shape. because if we don't attach those, then when they go over to matte, they're actually going to be on a separate sheet. And so we want to tell our machine where to write our text at. So what you want to do is you just want to click on each of the text elements that you have on your mountain. You want to use the Shift key. So we'll just grab all of those. And so if you look over into layers, you can make sure that you have everything together. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to select attach. Okay, so now we want to do that same thing for our dinosaur. So we're going to use the Shift key and we're going to select all of those fonts, and then we want to select the dinosaur shape itself. Now the final thing we want to do before we take our design over to matte is we want to check out a few things. We want to make sure that we're on the right machine, so we have the Explorer selected here. In the drop down you can choose the Joy or the Maker, and you could make this project on either one of those. We're going to be using the Explorer. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to go into Color Sync and just make sure I only want to use 3 colors. And so see here I have 2 different colors of green, and so I'm going to then move my little grass pieces over to my dinosaur. Okay, so now we just have 3 different pieces of paper to cut. So now we can go back to layers if we want to see that there, and let's just go ahead and select Make It. So now that we're on the mat, you can see that we have a gray mat, we have a green mat, and so here you can see that the font is on the green, and there's our grass, and then we have our blue. Okay, so and then of course on the mountain you can see there too we have our writing. So now at this point, if you have a class of 24 kids and you have 2 different designs, and so maybe you want to multiply these, you can go up into project copies and do that there. So I'm just going to show you how that works. So if I select 2 and apply, and so now it just duplicates it onto each of the mats. So that's a whole lot better than having to go back and duplicate it on the canvas, where then you've got so much. If you needed to make any kind of edits, it would be really difficult to do that, to find the right piece. And so I'm going to take that back to 1 just for our purposes, but you could do as many projects as you wanted to right here, just doing project copies right here. Okay, so now that we've got everything together and we've checked it, let's hit continue. Okay, so now I turned on my Explorer, and when I do the drop down, I see there it is. So on the Explorer machines, you have a dial on the actual machine, and so I have that selected to cardstock. You could twist that dial and put it to many different things, lighter cardstock or actual paper, vinyl, iron-on, all those types of things. And so because I have mine to cardstock, that's what's showing here. Okay, so then we want to just make sure that we have our pens, and then we have our fine point blade. And when you use pens with your Cricut Joy, your Explorer, or your Maker, the pen will always write before it cuts. Okay, always remember that. The pen writes before it cuts. So don't ever start out with the blade if you're using a pen tool. Okay, so now that all of those things are together, we can go over to the craft table and start putting it all together. Here we are on the craft table, and we just need a few things for today's project. So I have 3 different colors of cardstock. I have my cute little dino erasers. These are darling. Again, they only cost me $1 at the Target dollar spot for 6 of these. And then I have some twine, I have glue, I have my clear ruler, and I have my scraping tool. And then I have an assortment of pens. Now I'm only going to use 2 pens today. I'm going to use a marker, but this is the metallic marker set. This is what it comes with. I'm going to be using the blue, and then the black pen variety set, I'm actually going to be using probably the 0.3, but it comes with an assortment of pens as well. And then of course you can get like the larger fine point set that has a ton of colors in it. Okay, so let's move everything out of the way, and we'll go ahead and put our first cardstock on the green mat. Okay, so we're just going to place our paper on our mat, and so just place it down at the edges, and then you can use a scraping tool or just your hand to put it in place. And my mat, I need to replace it actually. It's not as sticky as I would like for it to be. So I'm going to place a small amount of tape at each corner just to keep it from shifting. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this over to the machine. Here we are at the machine, and so I'm just going to load my material underneath the feeds. Okay, so once the paper's in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black pen, I'm gonna put it in clamp A, and I'm gonna push it down until I hear it click. And then I'm gonna close my clamp. Okay, so now we can open this clamp, take out the black. Then we'll put in our blue. Click, close the clamp, select the cut button. It will write, and now we don't touch it again until it's totally done cutting out the shape of our mountain. Okay, so now we're gonna cut out our dinosaur and our grass. So we load our green mat. We wanna take out our black pen, open up clamp A, small pop, close the clamp, and select the cut button. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and I have all of the elements off the mat, and I have my little dinosaurs, how cute, and I have my twine. I have kind of more boyish twine, or if you want to stick with like more Valentine twine, and then I have my glue. And so what we want to do now is we want to just sort of build out all of these things. So the dinosaur is really simple. All we have to do is put our little dinosaur on top and thread our twine through and attach, just tie him on. And then for the mountain, all we have to do is use a little bit of glue, and we're going to attach all of the elements. So I have my grass, and then behind this I have my little piece that we created to sort of fill that in. And so all we need to do is glue all of these pieces together. And they turned out so cute. So once we got them tied on, and see how secure they are, fantastic. I am in love with this one. I love the little mountain. They're both super cute, but I'm really digging the little mountain. Okay, so those turned out really fun. So I hope you learned something when we're working in Cricut Design Space about being able to do really cool fun shapes and the contour tool and using the pen tool. And I hope that you will hop down below and check out all the materials that we used here today, and make sure, guys, that you hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. Okay, see you next time.